Now then, Nathaniel.
She was absolutely grotesque.
There was something of the dominatrix about her.
Oh, I didn't think you'd be loading her up, I must admit. I thought you'd be absolutely scathing about her.
I found her very appealing.
Did you? Is it because it's just so naughty?
I've never imagined such outright naughty behaviour.
Have you not? Some I don't believe you. Yeah, she was absolute grotesque. It was a fantastic bit of characterisation by Barker. Entice a man back to a house so she can bludgeon him, just so she can rebuild Frank so he can destroy her with his metronomic thrusting.
But those stilettos...
Yes.
Those stockings she was wearing...
Yes.
That big power hair, the big ginger power hair that she sported.
She
looked like Toya Wilcox.
Not the first name that leapt to mind.
Mm.
But again, I'm with you. I mean, she had, she was just a very sexual creature, lustful creature, wasn't she? She had that look in her eyes, like there's a cutting look in her eyes that, ooh, come over here and fuck me hard, you bastard.
I'd have thrown her to the floor, Nathaniel. I'd have thrown her to the floor.
Would you? What would you do?
I'd have been on her like a pig at a tater.
Would you? I hope Jesus wasn't looking at you.
Ripped her clothes off and stuck my little wrinkled blue pecker.
You think Julia might have
jabbed it into her, Nathaniel? I'd have jabbed it in, Nathaniel! If she let me, I'd jab it into her!
Like a frozen prawn. Okay, you're done with Julia.
She was fabulous.
She was fabulous, you're absolutely right.
Now, even for 1987, Nathaniel, I disagree with you here. I thought the special effects were poor.
Poor? Go on, justify it.
It was just plastic. It was plastic and rubber. It looked fake. It didn't convince me at all.
Even the sequence I've just been telling you about
No, I would have much rather have seen that CGI'd. It would have been far more realistic.
My word, you take some pleasing.
No.
You're sounding like you're not meaning what you're saying, Richard.
Nathaniel, this was a dreadful horror film.
Right.
It was filled with dreadful horror cliches, dreadful acting and dreadful effects. It's 3 out of 10.
Pioneering and potent stuff, especially for the 80s. It hasn't aged well, but it's got to be recognised as a worthy classic. 7 out of 10.
Okay then folks, this is the part of the show where nowadays we just talk about anything that takes our fancy. And this week we're going to be talking about the elderly. Now, all of us at some point will become elderly. And we just thought we'd bounce around a few ideas about the prospect. What are your thoughts, Nathaniel?
Well, firstly, to correct you, not all of us will have the fortune, the great fortune to make it into elderly years. Some people die prematurely.
Well, I suppose that's true. As you know, I'm considering taking my own life.
Yes.
So I may not reach the twilight of my years.
Well, I hope you change your mind, but back onto the subject. I think it's something of a generalisation, Richard, but I do generally think the elderly are held in too high esteem.
Held in what?
Too high esteem. Just from personal experience, of course. But you'd imagine that they're wise and gentle souls, but more often than not, they're just shallow old fucks who've got nothing more to offer than photographic memories for bus timetables. And how many positive, happy old people do you actually see? Not many.
Well, they're a curmudgeonly bunch of old bleaters, aren't they?
They certainly are.
Oh.
For the majority, anyway. Most of them have got a hunchback. They've got grimaces on their faces, and a moan as an opening line of conversation. And I have to tell you, Richard, sometimes they're just genuinely obnoxious. I was waiting for a bus the other day, Wednesday it was, and I sat next to this sweet-looking old lady. Just imagine the picture, if you will. Nicely groomed, grey hair, little brown glasses on, and a rosiness in her cheeks that was quite appealing. She looked at me and she smiled. And I thought, oh, what a sweet old lady. But then she turned to her friend next to her and said, "Hey, I put one of them wogs on the 417, you know what them like?" Bloody vile creature.
And that upset you?
It did upset me, absolutely. I was absolutely abhorrent. You know, you got this image of this sweet little old lady, like something you'd see on the TV, a kid's program or something, and she comes out with bile like that. Oh, it was absolutely obnoxious.
But isn't that just a generation, Nathaniel? Aren't you blaming somebody for something that they just can't help?
No, vice has never been acceptable, Richard. Not even back in the 40s or the 30s. How long? It's always been evil.
I think you're kind of repainting history there, Nathaniel.
I'm not repainting history at all.
Oh, I think you are.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm not.
I'm telling you that you are.
Do you want to give us a bit of take on what you think? You know, what comments you've got to say about their elder cousins?
I mean, I kind of agree in some way because they're a bit of a waste of space, aren't they?
Much of the time, yes. I think they'd be better off without them.
I mean, what do they do that's in any way constructive, really?
It's a jolly good question. What do they do constructive? Nothing. I've answered your question.
That's it?
They don't do anything constructive.
I mean, they clog up the pavement.
They do.
When you're trying to get anywhere. Do an experiment, Nathaniel. Just try this for me, will you?
Yes.
Deliberately make yourself late for an appointment.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you're heading out of the house.
Yeah.
You know, quarter of an hour late or something.
Okay.
For something quite important.
An interview or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See who gets in your way. Make a mental note along the way of who gets in your way.
Well, I should be conducting that experiment for sure, but what's your actual point? That they actually take some pleasure in holding people up and denying people their goals?
They pretend to be blighted with senility.
Right.
And, they pretend like, they wander around. I'm old, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm old. Get out of my way.
Yeah.
It's deliberate. It's provocative. What they want is for somebody to actually punch them in the fucking face. So, so then they can have them prosecuted and then they can go back to their home, miserable, with a black eye, thinking, I always knew this world was awful.
Well, I think there's something very relevant in the point that you're making. That they take some kind of bitter pleasure from, proving how right they actually are. You know what I mean? I was only trying to cross the road and this bastard run into me.
Exactly.
We'd be better off without them, Richard. I mean, the thing that gets me, you'd think they'd at least be gracious, wouldn't you? I mean, a lot of these fuckers, they lived through the war.
Mm-hmm.
The times really must have been rough, with the rationing and outdoor toilets, no creature comforts and so on. And they must have been genuinely poor.
Mm-hmm.
But now they've got things like heating allowance, a pension, free public transport, abundance of food on the shelves, and endless opportunities, and all that, and do fucking moan about the bus being 5 minutes late.
Now, you just said something there, Nathaniel.
Yes.
It's unlike you, because it was quite interesting. You said they've lived through the war.
Yes.
Most of them haven't.
Well, it depends on how old they are, doesn't it, really?
They say they have.
Right.
But it's just basic mathematics.
Oh, there's nobody older than 65.
No, I'm not saying that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that. But, okay, so you take somebody that's 65 now.
Yes.
Yeah? That means that they were born in
46.
46. So they didn't live through the war.
Richard, there are some people that are 80.
There are some people that are 80. And if you're 80, then you were 8 when the war started. Okay?
Yes.
And you were 14 or 15 when the war ended.
Yes.
So you didn't exactly contribute to the war effort. In fact, if anything, you were a parasite sucking vital resources from our great land whilst we were endeavouring to quell the Nazi uprising.
I don't know quite how you've managed to twist my point into the point that you're trying to make here. I mean, all I was trying to say was that these people have lived through the war.
But they haven't!
Well, they have.
No, they haven't.
Their parents wouldn't have 8 to rub together. They're struggling to feed the kids. They're hearing bombs going off. They've got no telly to watch.
What? They're hearing bombs going off?
Yes, every kid in the war heard a bomb at some point.
Now, see, again, this is part of the great pensioner delusion that they were all somehow involved in the Blitz.
I've seen the news, Richard. I know what went on.
You know, the big cities were hit: Birmingham, Manchester, Coventry, London. But if you lived in Gloucester, the nearest you got to hearing a bomb was setting off a fucking firework.
No, do your research, Richard. I'm pleased to be able to say that, but if you do your research, look at the World War II incidents, look at where the Nazis actually target on these shores, and they were picking out little villages in Yorkshire, little villages in Somerset. Of course, that never went heard about.
Well, if you're saying that, Nathaniel, I am compelled to believe it, because I know you're an honest man.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I'm just encouraging you to do your research for once. I mean, there was a little village called Ossett in West Yorkshire, I believe, that came in for fundamental amounts of bombing.
And what was there?
What was there?
Yeah.
Maybe a post office, maybe an old tavern.
So why were the Germans bombing it?
Because they liked the sound of the name. They thought it sounded very English, so they decided to target that village in particular.
Is that true?
Yes, it's absolutely true, yes.
So they thought that by striking at a particularly English-sounding place, that would be kind of striking at the heart of the nation?
Absolutely, yeah. Get them where they feel it most.
Well, I'm astonished.
I'm glad you've learned something.
I have learned something there, Nathaniel. What do you think about this for an idea?
Yes.
From 60, maybe 65 onwards, you're required to take some form of test.
Okay.
Aptitude test, physical fitness test, an intelligence test.
Okay.
You agree?
I suppose I do, but I'm kind of wondering if the implications should the old buggers fail.
Well, if you fail, you're fed to the pigs.
Fed to the pigs. I don't know if I could support that. I mean, despite what I've just said about my experiences with the elderly, and I don't hold them in high esteem, I wouldn't want to see the old buggers fed to the pigs, no.
Just put them to some bloody use. I've never met a pleasant old person, Nathaniel. They're rude, they're objectionable, they swear, they drop litter.
Yes, but a lot of people do, unfortunately.
I don't want to delve in below the waist, but stereotypes come from somewhere, and most old people, unfortunately, do smell of excrement.
And it has to be said.
Urine, excrement's the more pungent of the odours.
Yes, it is. Thanks for pointing that out.
I don't know if you've ever pooed yourself, Nathaniel.
I can't say that I have.
Well, given the choice, which one are you going to do?
I'm sure you. I'd have a different take on that, as Richard. I provide a different solution. Hoard as many of the old buggers as you can up. Create the biggest home for the elder that's ever been created.